Isaiah's dunking today, which means this will be a completely unhinged ADHD podcast. He cannot focus when this happens, but he's going to do his best. But today
I'm not on caffeine, so I will be pretty good at it.
You'll be better. All right. So this podcast is going to be about training to failure. As we've recently seen with Austin, he is a chronic undertrainer. He doesn't like to go to failure often because it hurts his knees, he says. Do we know if that's true or not?
In my hip.
To be determined. But we have found that him training harder makes him better. And
there's no evidence to support.
Actually, no, the evidence to support that is me training to failure this last cycle.
Yes.
And the Prinz loop. We should talk about the Prinz loop.
We'll talk about the Prinz loop. So basically, we're really gonna talk about improving via pushing till beyond failure, I would even say. So the backstory of this, I had an athlete, Martin Prinsloo. You guys may know who he is. He cleaned 145, I think, or 143 after what was essentially kilograms. Yeah, after a 4-month block cycle, macro cycle, whatever you want to call it. And he increased his squat, I want to say like 50 pounds or something like that. And then his vertical went from 11 to 11.6. Now, backstory, Martin has insane training history. Like his training history is very extensive. His training age is very high. He's a super motivated athlete. And as a result, he needs a lot more of a stimulus to spur on adaptation. So I essentially went in and I wrote two 2-month macro cycles, I guess you could call it. So it's basically 2 in volume to intensity cycles. And they were essentially impossible. Isaiah actually went and did these as well. And now he's pretty much in 51 5-inch form. He's in his final form right now. He's like final form Cell, final form Frieza. I don't know what form of Goku, but probably like, we'll say God tier, like the red one, not blue. He's not Super Saiyan blue. Not yet. That's 52. And yeah, he's best form of all time. Austin has also done this Prinz loop, but he made some interesting modifications. So he was not able to squat super heavy because of his hip and knee. He was not able to squat deep because of his hip and his knee. And these are ongoing things. Austin has this weird hip thing going on. I think he talked to Ben about it. Ben,
we're working on it. Yesterday was the first time I was able to like actually pass 90% on some of my jumps off one, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. So he's working on it with Ben. And the bigger thing that Isaiah and I want to see Austin do, Ben Moxness. Ben Moxness is
Patrick,
our new hiring of a doctor of physical therapy. And he's really smart, really bright guy. We've kind of mentored him over the years unintentionally. He just loved what we put out and felt like it was accurate. And we went from a fan to an athlete to then now coaching with us. So, and he has a physical therapy degree or is about to get it.
I do want to add with the Prinz loop, the modifications, obviously.
What modifications did you make?
So it has very heavy and very high squat volumes. I at first cut them out completely. And I did like very low effort, light squats, light reverse lunges, because I can load reverse lunges with my hip. And then when I moved to Jersey, my gym had a belt squat. So I was loading the belt squat instead. And this is the first Prinz loop cycle where I'm actually able to load squats heavier because of the belt squat.
And how long have you been loading your hip in belt squats?
It's been a couple weeks, but I haven't really pushed crazy heavy. And this is the first week I'm like, I did 3 plates for 4 deep on the belt squat. So I'm gonna push it. I think honestly, in terms of training to failure, I'm just gonna whatever weight I think I should do, I'm just gonna add 50 pounds because I don't know how strong I am. I'm gonna be honest. I'm just gonna see what goes from there. But yeah, those are the modifications I made. Everything else was the same. My power clean did go up, 15 pounds in the 2 months?
Yep. And you were able to do that the whole time. You were able to do that as prescribed. So that makes sense.
John, can you explain what you mean by it's impossible?
So
impossible?
It is actually impossible to do the training. And the reason, I'll explain. When you look at a given lift, it has a 1 rep max. That 1 rep max is 100% of what you can do for a given lift. Now, if you're going based off a rep max of a given weight, then that'll tell you what your estimated 1 rep max is. And this is like repeatable on a number of levels with bench press, with squats, with multi-joint exercises. We fatigue, and when we fatigue at a given rep range, it'll tell us what our estimated 1 rep max is based off normative data that we've collected over the last forever, basically, of bodybuilding, powerlifting, weightlifting. Weightlifting movements are a little bit different, but definitely for most of the strength exercises, we have these percentages. So your 1 rep max, you can do 1 time. That's 100% of your capacity on a given lift. Your 2 rep max is 95% of your 1 rep max. Your 4 rep max is 90% of your 1 rep max. Your 6 rep max, so what you could do 6 times of a given lift, is 85% of your 1 rep max. And for 8 reps, it's 80% of your 1 rep max. That was 8. So 10 is 75%. So if I did, let's say I did 75 pounds for 10 reps, then my max is 100 pounds. And if I did 12 is where it kind of falls off. That's supposed to be 70% of your max. And then past that, if you go down to 65, it's like 18 reps or something. It kind of falls off really quick when you get to that point. So if you're working at, for example, I give a workout to Isaiah where I say, hey, I want you to do, for example, in the Prince loop, this happens. I say, all right, what is Isaiah's 4 rep max? Okay, it's 90%. So 90% of his 1 rep max he can do for 4 reps. So if you do that 1 time, the assumption is you should be fatigued, 100% fatigued, meaning your muscles are at failure. You are at your rep max. You are at your muscular failure. So if I say, Isaiah, do squats at 90%, and I want you to do 2 sets of 4, technically that should not be possible, or unless you're taking like a 10 to 15 minute rest. Because if it's actually at 90% and he did it for a full 4 reps, and it's actually that percentage, then I know that he should be a failure and he should not be able to repeat that unless he has insane levels of energy regeneration. He takes a sensu bean or takes a quick nap, chugs a bunch of caffeine, takes some cough medicine. I don't know. Technically, it's supposed to be impossible. And if he is able to do that, then odds are his 1 rep max is not accurately assessed and his max probably went up. So what I will oftentimes do is I'll put guys on the brink of what is possible by playing around with that rep max number and that percentage by giving them multiple sets close to. So for example, what I might do is I might say, hey, Isaiah, I want you to do 3 sets of 3 at 90%. So after the first one, he's close to failure. After the second one, if he was able to get that with enough rest, the third set is going to be near impossible. And I like to progress along that continuum because it ensures that I'm increasing intensity. So for example, 1 week I might go 85%, and the next week I might go 90%. But how I'm able, and that ensures intensity is going up, but how I'm able to get more fatigue in that athlete system is by playing with the number of sets and reps at those given percentages. So again, I might be at 4 reps for 1, 2, 3 sets. I would pretty much never give someone 3 sets of 4 at 90%. That would be beyond impossible. That would be to ensure beyond a reasonable doubt in the court of law, in the judicial system, that they are at failure.
We might not even give them 1 set.
Yeah, I usually don't. I oftentimes don't give them 1 set.
The other thing is there's so many variables too that come into play. So like if you have like a lot of accumulated fatigue, maybe you didn't get the optimal amount of sleep that night, caffeine, adrenaline levels, environment, like all that stuff might affect what you can actually hit for that 4 rep max.
Like for perspective, Isaiah's done maybe that 4 rep max 1 time during the last cycle. And then during his next set, he just failed. He did 1 rep after like 8 minutes.
When I go to actual failure, I'm really bad at doing it again, if that makes sense.
Like resting. You're not supposed to be able to, but yeah, it's like very difficult to have those energy systems. And neurally speaking, when you're that strong, it fatigues you more.
Yeah.
If what I mean is like 80 pounds, you could probably do it a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But what I mean is getting wrecked.
What I mean is like I fall off. Like if I go to failure, like I get really neurally wrecked. Like I see it a lot when I do my upper body workouts, and sometimes I'll do like 4 sets of pull-ups to failure, for example, and I might hit
set one's like 18, and then the next one's like 8.
yeah, no, that's literally what happens, and then the last set will be like 3.
Yeah,
my performance just falls real quick.
That's somewhat normal because what happens is when you have metabolic byproducts build up, it impedes your ability to, we've talked about this with Ben, but like the coupling that happens, the likelihood of that happening goes down. It's more difficult to have, excitation, contraction coupling. That's what it's called. Cross bridging is more difficult. You don't get as much force. You have less of the energy that you need, the substrates that you need, specifically ATP. So that's normal. But I think for you, where I really see it is on super high neural strength activities. Like if you max out your clean or you max out your front squat, for example, there's no way you're going to have a reasonable clean session. Like we saw that firsthand.
Yeah.
If you basically have like one bullet in the chamber for
I gotta decide what I want to spend it on.
Yeah. And it's like Yu Yu Hakusho's spirit gun. He gets one shot of that and then he's out of spirit energy.
Recently it's been like that. I used to be able to, when my training age was lower, I'd have days where everything was crazy. Like I would deload and I'd PR my clean by a lot, my squat would PR by a lot. But
he's just too heavy.
Now same with jumping too. Like it's like I have a crazy day where I do one thing, but then like everything just falls off and takes a while to recover.
This is actually wild. Like thinking
how this
about
comes back to Austin. What were you gonna say?
No, I just like I mean, one, I don't know what any of my maxes are except for my power clean. One. So when
I know that's a big problem
the percentages, that's like I don't know. Like a lot of times when I do percentages, like I'm going, where I would think, like even doing the belt squat at 315, like I haven't squatted 315 and I don't even know how long. But it's honestly I probably could have done 7 when it was prescribed 4, or I could have done 8 maybe. But no, it's just interesting, like hearing you guys talk about it because I've been doing the training. I train hard. It's not like I don't train hard. I've been training hard for years. But like,
that's where.
But I don't know my numbers. I don't know. I never get to max properly, or I'm never healthy enough to max properly.
Yeah. Oh, you are. It's just that you would rather jump high, so you don't.
Not really. No, for squatting, I've been able to max for a long time. Like probably I haven't maxed since like 2023, beginning of 2023.
Here's the thing. I could just ask you how many reps you have left in the tank, and that would tell me what your max is. So, for example, you put 315 on the other day, right, for squats?
Mm-hmm.
How many reps did you do?
4.
And how easy was that? How many more reps? Sorry, how many more reps?
How many more reps? If you had a gun to your head, how many reps?
How many more reps could you have done?
I probably could have done 5 more.
If I call that reps in the tank, right?
If Isaiah's yelling at me, add 4.
You were supposed to be at 4 reps at 90%, meaning you could only do 1 set of that and you would be a failure, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm loading it. It's heavier than I've loaded. So like I'm loading heavier than I would load. Like I'm trying to build back up.
You're loading heavier, but
it's still like I'm still learning. It's very. I do
9
think it's
reps.
the
Let's
biggest
say you could do
thing.
10. Let's say you could do 10, right? So that was what, 75%? I think was that? Or no, wait.
10 was 75.
2 is 95. 4 is 90. 6 is 85. 8 is 80. 10 is 75. So if we did 315 divided by 0.75, you should have been able to do 420 is your max. So if we use 420 as your max for that partial squat, and that's the thing, like that's why it's important with partial ranges to know. So 420 times, what was your percentage supposed to be at?
I was supposed to be at 87.5 plus.
Okay. So let's just say 88.
That's today too, for example. I have to do that today.
So you're supposed to be at 370.
Okay. So like I was kind of right. I said add 50 pounds to whatever I think it is because it's 360.
Yeah. If you want to eyeball it, yes.
So two things. One, that I think that's part of the reason I didn't improve that much in 2021. Because my training was really robust. It was really complex. And I was doing half squats. But if you look back at those videos, I was doing half squats with 315. I think the heaviest, sorry, I have stuff in my throat.
No focus.
I think the heaviest like half squat I ever did was like 4 plates for 1 rep. When in reality, my half squat max is closer to 500. I should have been doing 400 for reps.
I 100% agree.
That whole month. Second thing, I think that's a big differentiator, and I think like between us, but I think it'll get better as you get used to pushing the limits. I basically always know what my max is because every workout. It's actually kind of a problem. Every workout I'm testing. Like think about John was on FaceTime with me the other day and I just maxed out a split squat on the belt squat. It wasn't on the training. We were trying to find but at one point I was just like, I'm going to try to 1 rep max this thing out. And especially early in a cycle, like week 1, what I like to do is find out what my maxes are through the reps that are prescribed. So it's like, if I have triples at a back squat, sometimes I'll hit the triple and then try to see what I can do for 1, or the reverse. I'll like see what I can hit for 1 and then do whatever's prescribed, like the 2 top set triple at 90 or whatever it is.
The number of unplanned max outs Isaiah does in a year is I would say it's about 25% of the time he's
Yeah.
an unplanned max out in something, whether it's a rep max or it's a 1 rep max or something like that. We definitely,
Yeah.
I would say Isaiah and I enjoy going to failure and testing our limits. I do something similar oftentimes. Like yesterday on the eccentrics, I lowered for me, it was testing. Like, how heavy can I lower for 2 reps on each leg and not die? And how well can
Yeah.
I do this and safely? Like, for me, that's kind of how I
Yeah.
will see, is like, how heavy can I go? Not what's the percent. It's like, what realistically can I do? It doesn't really matter what's on the piece of paper. I mean, it does matter.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But for us, understanding why we're doing what we're doing helps in pushing the levels if we stay underneath the injury line, right?
Which is a big if.
Yeah.
Like
The
Like,
health
I think
fitness, the health
I get so
fitness line.
afraid. Like, I'm just so tired of being injured. I get so afraid, and then on intern is actually hurting me. But we always joke too, like that I just have this random strength. I don't know how strong I am. Like, I'll just randomly do some
I know.
random like feat of strength out of nowhere.
When I
And
saw
like
you
meanwhile,
clean
when I train,
285 or whatever it was, I was like, what the hell?
oh, when I accidentally cleaned 285, I almost caught that. When I had a 55-pound bar by accident, and I was trying to do 275, and I just
Dude,
was like
even when I
almost
saw you
cleaning
max out
285.
here, I was shocked. I was shocked when I saw you max out here. I was like,
No,
what the hell?
but I think a lot of it is mental too. Like I've had these moments where like Isaiah's been training and like in the garage and he has like 400. How much was on that bar? And I just was drinking a beer and I just like walked out, put the beer down and like
yeah, the
no
405
warm up,
deadlift.
deadlifted 405, but like or squatted. I pin squatted the from 405 front rack, like
Yeah.
random stuff. But then it's like you put you put 2 plates on a bar when I go to the back squat and I'm like in my head and I'm afraid. Like it's
Yeah.
so weird. So
But I feel like this is a good place to cut it off. I'm trying to keep these a little bit shorter because I do think 35 minutes is too long. I feel like 15 minutes is the sweet spot for you guys that listen to this podcast regularly. We want it to be a part of your day. I hope we're the best part of your day. My goal is to be the best part of your day. But yeah, anyways, thanks for listening, guys. If you're interested in getting coaching, as always, go to THPStrength.com. We obviously obsess about this, every finite detail of it. It is our favorite thing in the world, and we want you guys to be a part of that. So if you're interested in getting coaching, THPStrength.com. And do you guys have anything else, Isaiah, Austin?
be safe out
I
there.
do want to say one last thing. If you're a THP athlete, follow what's on the piece of paper. If you actually found your true max when you were supposed to test, the workouts are gonna help. But you have to test well when you do that and test accurately. And sometimes what we do is me and John will do it. We did it for belt squat, for example, is I maxed 355, then I went 375, failed it. The 355 looked a little easy. We're working off 365 this training cycle. So try not to go off plan. The reason John and I go off plan is because we understand our bodies very well, and we're also trying to push the limits of what we're doing. But
And even that, we're still within the bounds of on the plan.
yeah. But most 90% of athletes on our training don't know their bodies well enough, don't know the science behind the training well enough to get off plan. And you'll know who you are if you're able to do that. And if you don't know, ask us and we'll give you the green light on how hard to push. And always remember, if you go heavier than what's on the piece of paper, you have to go heavier the next week.
That's a big note.
Yeah.
So keep
Just
in mind,
remember,
it's got to get worse.
Yeah.
I would say, what is it? It's always the little things. You're always learning every day. Like I've been doing this training for like 5 years and I'm still figuring stuff out. So
Facts.
just,
I
just do the little
continue
things.
learning
You can
too.
eat well, you can stop drinking, but if you're not squatting heavy, you're not training hard, it's not gonna improve as
Ultimately,
much.
you have to.
So I'm gonna start drinking again and squat heavier.
You
I'm
know,
just kidding. I'm just kidding. But
bad
no,
advice.
just like yeah, just like always look for the little things. You're gonna learn every day. Don't beat yourself up. When you figure out something, you figure it out.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys on Monday. Have a good weekend. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. Bye bye.